Welcome to All Baseball History, the channel for all things baseball. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss a thing, and with that, let's get to today's video.
One of the original features of Fenway Park was a 25-foot tall wall in left field that would later become famously known as the Green Monster due to its imposing size and difficulty of hitting over it. The wall's height is necessary because of the park's close proximity to Lansdowne Street. A shorter wall would allow baseballs to easily travel into the streets and possibly hit nearby shops. For many years, the wall actually had a net installed at the top to prevent balls from going over and into the street. During its early years, the wall was completely covered in advertisements and was more simply known as the Wall. It didn't get its Green Monster nickname until 1947 when the advertisements were taken down and the wall was painted green. Another original feature of the park and the Green Monster was a 10-foot tall mound that sat at the base of the wall. It formed a slope that extended from the center field flagpole all the way to the left field foul pole. The incline served as sort of a precursor to the dirt warning track, which would become more common in ballparks later on, and also doubled as an overflow seating area during crowded games. Fans could sit in the bleachers set up in front of the left field wall. When the bleachers were removed during less attended games, this meant that the left fielder would have to run uphill to catch any fly balls that were hit toward the left field wall. In that era, the Red Sox had a left fielder named Duffy who became quite skilled at running uphill and making outs with no trouble at all. In fact, he became so popular that the incline was often referred to as Duffy's Cliff. Spanning a little over the park's first 20 years, Duffy's Cliff remained a unique feature until 1934 when the decision was made to flatten it during renovations. The 1910s were quite a successful time for the Red Sox. Starting in 1912, when Fenway first opened, the club won 105 games, capturing the American League pennant. They later defeat the New York Giants in the World Series, winning 4 of the 8 games played. They had to extend the series to 8 games due to one game ending in a tie because of the lack of available light to continue playing. In fact, night games in baseball wouldn't become regular occurrences until the late 1930s. Pitcher Smokey Joe Wood and outfielders Tris Speaker and Harry Hooper were just some of the Red Sox star players around this era, which helped the team draw crowds to games. In 1914, Boston's new owner Joseph Lannan signed an up-and-coming pitcher named George Herman Ruth, or who would later become more widely known as Babe Ruth. Prior to that time, Ruth had been playing with a minor league club, the Baltimore Orioles, not to be confused with the major league team, the Baltimore Orioles, which is a different organization that moved from St. Louis to Baltimore in 1954. Ruth would help the Red Sox capture the American League pennant once more in 1915, winning 18 games that season. In an interesting move, Joseph Lannan decided not to have the Red Sox play their home games at Fenway Park during the 1915 World Series, opting instead to play at the Boston Braves' brand new field, wanting to take advantage of the 40,000 seating capacity that the stadium offered. Amazingly, the Red Sox pitching depth was so deep that they hardly even used Babe Ruth during the series against the Philadelphia Phillies, winning the championship in 5 games. The next season, Boston continued their success once again by reaching the World Series. Ruth pitched 14 innings in Game 2 and a 2-1 victory over the Brooklyn Robins. For the second year in a row, the Red Sox also played their home games at Braves Field during the series, where they would go on to clinch the championship in Game 5 in front of a then-record crowd of 42,620 people. With the United States entering the fight in World War I in 1917, many baseball players either enlisted voluntarily or were drafted into military service. This left quite a number of vacancies on each team, and Babe Ruth, who was somewhat dissatisfied with only being used as a pitcher, took the opportunity to play other positions, which gained him more playing time. Between the 1917 and 18 seasons, Ruth emerged as a breakout hitter, hitting 300 or above in each season. By the end of the 1918 season, Ruth had become one of the league's best and most versatile players. Boston would end up reaching the World Series again in 1918, this time facing the Chicago Cubs. This marked a return of playing at Fenway Park since the 1912 World Series for the team. Boston ultimately defeated Chicago in 6 games, securing the Red Sox 4th World Series title in just 7 years, and 5th championship overall in the franchise's history. I just want to pause real quick to ask, if you're enjoying this video so far, please hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe as well. Okay, let's get back to the video. Prior to the 1917 season, Red Sox owner Joseph Lannan decided to sell the team to a theater producer and director named Harry Frazee for $675,000. Even after enjoying his team's success, Lannan was quoted saying, "I'm too much of a fan to be an owner." Frazee's time in control of the team, however, would become infamous as he sold most of the team's players away, mainly to the New York Yankees, in return for a quick infusion of cash. Frazee's theater productions did not always perform well financially, and he had to routinely borrow money from the Red Sox to pay for theater expenses. Making matters worse, World War I had shortened the 1917 and 1918 baseball seasons, and attendance fell considerably. It was also no secret that American League president Ban Johnson wanted Frazee out as the Red Sox owner due to Frazee publicly criticizing Johnson over his handling of league business pertaining to the issues brought on by the war. One of Frazee's biggest fears was Johnson revoking his ownership of the Red Sox and losing one of his biggest moneymakers. While Frazee was the sole owner of the team, he only owned a portion of Fenway Park, which was mainly held by Fenway Realty Trust, which was controlled by the team's former owners John Taylor and Joseph Lannon. Frazee figured if he could own Fenway Park outright, that would complicate any plans by Johnson to replace him as the owner, as the Red Sox would be left without a stadium to play in. So by the spring of 1920, even though he was already pretty deep in debt, Frazee entered into discussions to buy Fenway Park after first settling a money dispute with the team's former owner Joseph Lannon. A few months earlier, Frazee also made a deal with the Yankees to send Babe Ruth to New York for $100,000, which at the time was the largest deal ever made for a player. The sale also included a loan from Yankees owner Jacob Rupert of $300,000 to Frazee, which was financially backed by the mortgage on Fenway Park. Not long after Ruth was sold, Frazee and Taylor finalized a deal that would make Frazee the sole owner of Fenway Park. With Ruth and many of the talented Red Sox players traded away, Boston would struggle greatly over the next decade. Babe Ruth, of course, would go on to be considered one of the greatest players to ever play the game, holding a number of all-time records, including the most home runs in a season and the most home runs in a career by the time of his retirement in 1935. Frazee's ownership of the team wouldn't last long after the Ruth sale, as he ended up selling the team to one of Ban Johnson's buddies, Bob Quinn, for just over $1.2 million in 1923. Ruth coming to the Yankees was considered the beginning of the curse of the Bambino, which would loom over the Red Sox franchise for most of the next century, in which they failed to win a championship for 86 years.
So what did you guys think about the Red Sox trading away one of the greatest baseball players of all time in Babe Ruth? Do you think a similar curse could fall upon the team after trading away another generational player in Mookie Betts? Let me know in the comments below.